Sahana bhavatu sahano bhunaktu sah viryam karavavahai tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. So welcome to today's talk. So today we're going to be talking about free will. So we're going to be, first of all, we're going to be looking at revisiting the theory of karma. So this is not karma yoga here, sorry, it's just it's visiting the theory of karma. And then we're going to look at one of the existential question is, why do things happen to me? And perhaps only me, or that kind of things, and why am I here today and not somewhere else, and that sort of thing. And then is there any free will in this world? So is everything in our lives predestined, or is there anything that we actually can do or should do? So so I'd start talking about the laws of karma a little bit. So just to kind of recap, and so we have to just make the distinction between karma and karma theory. So karma means action, and here karma theory is the law of action and reaction. Okay, so they are just two different things. So we've been looking in the last week, in the last month, we've been talking a lot of karma yoga. So the word karma is not to be mistaken here. It is still action, but then we were looking at actions that we do, and now we are talking about the law of cause and effect, which is what law of karma is about. So the law of karma, or the law of cause and effect to begin with, states that for every cause there has to be an effect, and that effect become the cause of something else. Okay, so well, there's not much to discuss about in terms that to every action there is a reaction as well. We know that very well, and that's something that science buys as well. I guess the only slight difference between what science and the Vedic philosophy says is that for science it's got to be proven in a way that can't be proven. It cannot be seen in the labs. It's quite intangible, and then very often when scientists don't understand something, they kind of call it randomness, and that randomness just means that scientists can't explain it, but doesn't mean that it can't be explained. And it can be explained by the Vedas, and that some scientists do not accept the Veda as a source of authority or a source of knowledge. So so the way we explain law of karma is that with every to every action, the reaction can be pleasurable reaction or as result, if you like, and sometimes it can be not so pleasant, so there would be negative consequences that happen. And then just for to understand those, we refer to those as red, juicy, sweet apples, which we like. And for those who understand the words punya, so this is this is the word in Sanskrit. And then also the things that cause us suffering, it could be anything, any reaction. It could be in terms of experiences, it could be in terms of objects, it could be in terms of thoughts, words, anything. And so they can be a bit sharp. So that means they are not so pleasurable, and they cause us a little bit of suffering. Okay, so so these are the green apples. So they're just a little bit sharp, the green cooking apples that if you just bite it, you go a little bit like, ooh. So that's what we're talking about here. And the word for it is papa. So the papa is often translated as sin, but I don't tend to use that word, because sin in different cultures or whatever, it has a lot of connotation. So this is not a sin, this is just a result of an action that's not pleasurable. Okay, so we're not talking about sin as some religions call it, and it might have a very specific meaning. So now we've seen that an effect can be pleasurable, or it can be unpleasant, or it can cause suffering. Now, the second thing to understand about these effects is that sometimes the effects is quite immediate and visible, but sometimes they can take place later, and sometimes it can be invisible as well, things that we can't see or understand directly. Okay, so if now I turn up the volume of my speaker, you will hear my voice a lot louder. So that would be an immediate action, and it's visible because you can experience it as well. And if we were using an apparatus to measure it, it would show that. But then there are loads of things that happen that are invisible and we don't really know. And a lot of time we use the word coincidence and chance and all that sort of things that happen. So in a way, in the Vedic literature here, in what we've been studying, we kind of say that a coincidence, if you like, is a result whose cause is unknown to me. So it is unknown to me, but then there is something that I can't comprehend. Nothing happens just for the sake of it. Okay, so if that were to happen, something just happens randomly, then that kind of violates in some way the law of cause and effect in some respect. And so things have to have a cause. And so yeah, so these are important to understand at this point. So okay, so you don't need to get too bogged down into the technicalities of these, so don't worry too much about this, but I will just explain in words what I'm trying to say here. So so actions can be classified in those terms, if you like. So there can be black actions, and then there can be black and white, so a little bit of both, and then there can be purely white action, and then there can be actions that are neither white nor black. So we will understand what we mean by these. So Krishna also Krishna is the word for black in Sanskrit, and Shukla here is the word for white. So that's what these are. And just to remind you that anything that's in green, if you don't want to even look at them, you don't have to. So don't worry. So so black actions, or actions that kind of have got definitely leads to suffering, can be, well, they can be prohibited action, so things that we shouldn't do, and we know about some of these. So we've learned some of these in when we looked at the yamas and the niyamas, some of the things that we shouldn't do. We shouldn't harm others, and we should speak the truth. We should be minimalists. We shouldn't be thieves, and all these things that are that shall we say are prohibited. I mean, prohibited in the sense that they are not aligned with dharma. Okay, so they are not aligned with righteousness. And then they are bad actions, so they are they're not necessarily prohibited, but they can be a little bit well, but then they just happen. So Okay, I'll come back to this. And then there are actions. The black actions definitely lead to suffering that as a consequence later. Maybe not just at the moment, right? So, um, and then the black and white, so which is where a lot of things come in life, is good and bad. So everything is mixed. So in many ways, everything that we do, most of the things that we do is quite mixed, so don't be alarmed by it. I mean, like even when we're consuming things, or even our food or whatever, we are kind of doing something. We are depending on nature. We are sometimes exploiting nature to get some of the things that we need a bit more, or so there's all, I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's just to sort of say, just to be aware of it. And it's again that thing about to every action there's a reaction. And then so here the another one is around ritual actions with desires, depending on internal and external actions. So the intention behind what you do sometimes can be, you might be doing a very good action, but then the intention behind that action makes it not so white and not so righteous in itself. So I think we talked about some of these actions, and we also talked about it in terms of rajasic actions. So there could be actions that are at the outright very good actions, but then the intention or what you're doing about it can be quite not so righteous. So an example that could be that, if you, let's say you're giving charity or whatever, but then you want everybody to know this is what you're doing, and to kind of, about yourself, to boast about it. And then that kind of is a bit of a good and it's a white and black action. So where it is a good action that you're doing, there's no doubt about it, but your reason for doing it is not so noble after all. I'm not saying it shouldn't be done or whatever, but I'm just giving an example. And then, so black and white actions, so then it caused by both injury and kindness to others, so a mix of both. Pure white actions, so they are good actions, so they are things that are like penance, study, meditation, so things that really are not involved, are not having an impact on others directly. And then some of those white actions are those that are not dependent on external objects, so it's only in the mind. So like, only your thoughts, and with that, not too much bad can happen sometimes. And then what is interesting is the neither white and nor black actions. So they are the karmas that are performed by realized beings. So they are realized beings who kind of know that they are not this body, this mind, and they are this Atma. So for them, there is this complete renunciation of the fruit of the karma. So everything that they do, they offer to God. Everything that they offer to Ishvara. So they don't see themselves as the doer, as the experiencer of these actions, and therefore it is neither white nor black. And then and as a result, they can't keep adding to their stock of to their stock of apples, and that means what they do in this life is simply exhausting whatever karma that they have to do, and all the other karmas and everything else gets wiped out, and they don't create any karma in this lifetime. So this is good to understand. We'll come back to this eventually in subsequent talks. So this is just to kind of give you an example, and it's not always so clear cut, but so that and it's I find it quite useful, because you can sometimes, in our daily life, we can see, oh, where does this fit? Is this a prohibited action? Is it a bad? Is it leads to suffering? Is it black and white? Sometimes we have to do black and white, but and it's okay. It's just kind of realizing it. So basically, what we want to be aiming for is to not do the black actions, to reduce some of the black and white, and to just to be conscious when we're doing them, and then to focus on the white as much as possible. Okay, so now I wanted to move on to this question that we sometimes have is, well, why am I here today? Or what am I doing in this life? And why do these things always happen to me? And there's this song that says, why does it always rain on me, for instance? And, you know, and also in the same way, sometimes we say, you know, if we see one of somebody that we, you know, that is a really nice person, and then, but they're always going through a lot of suffering in their lives, and then we say, well, this is such an unjust world. Why do unpleasant things happen to such nice people? You know, why are the people who are apparently not so nice thriving and not, you know, not experiencing so much difficulty in life? So that's a fair question, isn't it? Have you ever asked those questions? And so essentially, again, it is the answer can only be explained in terms of karma. So if we look at this nice person whom everybody loves and has never done anything bad in their lives, as far as we know, then this can't be explained. But then there must be a reason why things are happening to them. And this would come from what has happened in previous lifetimes and things that they have had to their stock of apples. So in this life, you know, what they need to do is kind of go through these experiences to undergo the fruit of their past actions, and that's all it is. So obviously, this is a big deal. I mean, you know, we can't say that to people. I mean, our role is that when we find people who are really suffering, we can't tell them, oh, it's your karma, so you suffer. You know, it's not like that at all. It's not kind of saying, oh, they should be, you know, this should be happening to them, so therefore good for them. It's not like that at all. It is just trying to find an explanation, but then it's also kind of saying that, you know, they need compassion, they need help to go through what they're doing. And as, you know, as friends and as citizens and as a fellow human beings, we help them as much as we can through it. So this is the thing. It is not about, you know, letting people suffer because, you know, they made it happen themselves in some ways, but it's not like that at all. So I just want to repeat that point just so that you understand it. It's not sort of saying, you know, oh, it's your own fault. And it's not also about trying to find out what it might have been that we've done in past lives, not at all. So there's no encouragement to do that sort of thing, because a lot of it would be well beyond what we can fathom and what we can understand. And this is not our role. I mean, sometimes, you know, if we've done something bad, we know about it, then we learn the lesson quite quickly. And I think we you know, if something is happening to us, we will know why quite quickly, and we know that maybe we've taken a bad decision, maybe we've, you know, but if there is something a lesson that you can look at quite quickly and obviously, then that's great. So that would mean it's a result of an action that is immediate and visible. But then just to recognize that a lot of these results of actions are actually invisible, and also can happen, you know, several births later. So basically, we are here in this lifetime doing what we're doing in the situation we are. Much of it is because of our accumulated karma. So, you know, the parents who we've been born to. So this is a result of our accumulated karma as well as theirs. So there needs to be that synchronicity there, if you like, between them to have us and us to be there, and for all this to happen. So also we might kind of say, well, actually, you know, we're all here listening to this lecture, but then we could have been somewhere else. We could have been doing something completely different right now. And there were many competing things to do tonight, but you've chosen to be here. And why? And why do you come to these talks? Why do you like things that you do? Why do you like painting? Why are you attracted to certain things in your lives? And sometimes, these things can come from previous lives as well. I mean, obviously there is an element of what you've been exposed to in childhood, maybe, or maybe not. You can find that, a child prodigy comes along to in music, and whose parents have got nothing to do with music as well, or you can have that nurturing environment. So a lot of it, things that are deep in our deep ingrained in our subtle body is what sometimes guides our interests and why we are interested in some of the others. And I think a lot of this can be shown, people have tried to do studies on twins, for instance, and looking at why they are very different. I mean, obviously they've got the same parents, the same genes, and, but then they turn out to be completely different. So, this character that they have, these personalities that people have, where is it coming from? And this comes from previous experience, things that we've fed ourselves in previous lives, not in this body, but in various bodies that we've had. So really, to understand why I'm here and why certain things happen to me and why I'm the way I am, why I'm not like my friends, or why I'm not interested in sports, why I'm not doing this, and is not something that can be answered by just looking at your life here. Some of it, of course, I mean, the great athletes will tell you, well, I train a lot every day, and I train 6 days a week, and there's hard work, no doubt. But why is it that they can do it, but not everybody else can? And, all that sort of thing. There is always, the answers is not to be found quite easily in this lifetime by looking at what we know. So it is acknowledging that. And again, not encouraging anyone to try and find out what they were in previous births. That's not very productive, or some people do it, but that's not what we are on about. And also, I think it kind of gives a long-term approach to things as well. I mean, it's not just about what we're doing now, and it's not just about, but it's about preparing, investing in our lives in a sort of different way, at looking at the very long term, not just at the short term. And the decisions that we make for ourselves, if we focus on the short terms, are very different if we were focusing just on the short terms, or on the long terms, or on the medium terms, or on the very, very long terms beyond this birth even. Okay, so this is something that's quite difficult for some people to understand, or for an idea to get round, but it is kind of, it can be really helpful. Sometimes you kind of think, okay, all I do is go to work, come back, eat, sleep, and then do the same thing. What is the whole purpose of this? And so sometimes if we kind of have this long-term approach to kind of say, well, okay, this is why this is it, and this is why I have to do this, and it gives a different perspective in life, really. Now I wanted so I've got a very complicated diagram here as well, but don't worry about the diagram. I just wanted to kind of make sure it's all here. And so I will okay, so we've talked about why we have our likes and our dislikes and our tendencies in life. So there is what we call the habitual imprints for us. So basically what the habitual imprints is our total accumulation of green and red apples over several births. Okay, so that's the total, what we have accumulated. And so these for each person, and the Sanskrit word for it is samskara, and so they are there, and it's the potentiality of behavior, and it is not all of it is visible, but it's all there. And imagine now there is these samskara for every single person that's actually stored somewhere in the cloud, not the iCloud, but that is there in the universe, that exists for all our apples to be there and everything get registered. And I've also mentioned in the past about the role of Ishvara as the super accountant that kind of has got an account. There is this kind of account of everything that just gets imprinted in the whole in the whole universe, if you like. So then obviously in this birth we've got some traits, some habits, some skills that are dominant. Okay, so and these are the subliminal imprints that come to fruition in this life. So these are the traits that define who we are in a way in this life. And like, for instance, if you are an artist and you're looking at a tree, you'll find the way you look at the tree is very different. You'll analyze it in a certain different way, and you will so these are the skills that you've got and the normal attraction. Whereas for me, if I look at a tree, and a tree is a tree, right? So I won't see that much, and just because I haven't got those habits, those skills that are dominant in me. So similarly, these vasanas are all very different, and so the vasanas come from these habitual imprints, but then they are the ones that are dominant in this life. And then there is this process of memory, or smriti, which is here. So it is the process of remembering. So what happens is we remember things come to our head, to our mind, and things are triggered about our own preferences and our own things. And then sometimes we're just like, oh yeah, I remember this, and this is, so it's the retrieval of vasanas. So now the bit that I wanted to talk a little bit more about is about these vasanas. So how do they come about? So as I said earlier on, nothing just happens. Okay, so sometimes people say, oh well, things just happen when I'm actually when I'm sleeping. I just breathe. I just carry on breathing. It just happens. Obviously it just happens because you are not doing it. Doesn't mean it doesn't mean it's something is not happening, so nothing just happens, right? And if I think we've all experienced, and we all appreciate that nothing just happens. So if you've got a sink full of dirty crockery, nothing just happens. So if you leave it there for 2 weeks, it will be there for 2 weeks, okay, unless you do something about it. So nothing just happens. I think we all know that. So these things happen in the order of, or in the laws by Ishvara. So things happen due to Ishvara's will and due to Ishvara's making this world happen. Okay, so we have talked about Ishvara as the creator, but also as the sustainer, who's sustaining everything. So the prana that is all there, all within us, that makes it possible to experience things as well, and everything, the sense organs and everything within us is given to us by Ishvara, and without the life force in everything, nothing will happen, and nothing will happen. So basically, even the act of we said earlier on that these vasanas that are dominant in this lifetime. So how do we know what is dominant, what is going to be dominant in this lifetime? So this is given to us by Ishvara. So this is the quality of Ishvara as somebody who gives us the fruit of our action when it's time. So this is the role of Ishvara as giver of these results of actions. Okay, so this is how these things happen. So similarly, when a thought happens, it happens. Things happen by law of Ishvara and things that are happening. But so everything that happens is through the will of Ishvara and is happening because of Ishvara. So that breathing that we say happens automatically, this is Ishvara. And so everything comes from there. And so then comes a little bit around desires. So desires is connected with this idea of doership, things that we want to do, things that we want to achieve, and also it comes with the intellect as well. So here is where free wills come. So obviously what vasanas we have, or what imprints we have in this lifetime, we haven't decided this. We are the maker of it, but we haven't decided when it is given to us. Okay, so this is Ishvara's role. So what memories we have, how we remember, how these, like all of a sudden you feel like, oh, there is this memory of something that's coming, and that is also the law of Ishvara, and that is also Ishvara's role. But then from there, what you do with this, then that is your free will. So you can choose what you do with these things. Okay, so I mean, if I just take a little bit of an example of a thought, if a thought, what thoughts come, we have got no say on. Okay, we don't know how they come. But what we do about these thoughts is totally up to us. Okay, so we can entertain a thought if we want to. But sometimes we feel a bit helpless, but we're not really, but we feel it. That's a different story. But we always have a choice about whether we entertain that thought or not. And once we understand this, then it becomes a lot easier to sometimes, be in that position where we can actually be in control of these and of what we feed our mind and what we let our mind, allow our mind to think. Okay, so another example is that, like for instance, the human mind is absolutely fascinating. It's the most brilliant piece of kit ever, and so we kind of make things in our heads, and all the dreams that we have and all these things that power of things that we do is just terrible. It's just not terrible, but it's just unimaginable. So one example I wanted to give is that when we start entertaining thoughts, we then sometimes bring in things that are not true as well. We can make certain assumptions about certain things, and we kind of make in our own mind a whole big story about why this is the way it is, and all sorts of things that can come to our mind. We already have a theory, we already have a conspiracy theory, we can always come up, like let's take an example of let's say the husband is late from work, and then the wife has already got a story about why that is the case and what he must be doing, and and why that must have happened, and there was the last time as well, and then this is all, there's all that piecing things together. I'm not saying it, these things sometimes help but sometimes don't, but I'm just talking about the possibility. So you can we can think around that line, or we can actually say, oh well, I'm not going to make assumption. When he comes, I'll ask, or something like that, or so that we've got options about how we deal with these thoughts, and so that's the beauty of the human mind, is we've got this intellect that helps us to think through. And I guess a lot of us are animal lovers, and that if so animals have also got feelings, of course, as we all know. They've got a mind, but their intellect is kind of slightly less, a lot less developed than ours. in a way, they're all programmed. So animals behave in a way that's very structured and within a certain set of, but whereas humans, we haven't got this, and humans behave in ways that are much worse than animals, and very unpredictable, and very, very, very bad sometimes, and very, very good sometimes as well. So, if you leave a dog for a while, and then they when you come, they haven't been thinking, oh, have you been to see another dog? Did you stroke the other dog, the neighbor's dog? Have you been betraying me? Have you been doing, what were you thinking? Were you making plans to get rid of me? So a dog doesn't think like that. Okay, so with their limited intellect, when we come, they accept us as we are. And so basically, in that sense, it helps not to overthink things. So it is good to think about this and not make assumptions, and that's not very helpful. And so obviously, related to the desires that we have, and very often they are triggered by the sense organs. So what we see, what we hear, what we taste. So if we start getting the taste for this particular type of whatever food, and then we just want more of it, and or less of it, or so all these sense organs are actually what kind of brings our minds in different ways. And it is the way that we interact with the world. Okay, so yeah, I think I've talked about all this already. So the memory is the retrieval of the samskaras, or the vasanas, or the imprints in this life that are dominant, and then imprints in the mind for everything that is possible that we've accumulated over many lifetimes are all there somewhere dormant and in the subconscious. And also how we carry all this in our subtle body. So as we know, this body goes, this physical body goes, and then it stays with all our with the subtle body and the causal body, actually. So both of them. So the subtle body will have this, as well as the causal body that we've looked at before. So, okay, so now just go looking at the results of our actions again. So we, for sure, contribute to the results of our actions. But then the actual results depend on so many factors beyond our comprehension. Okay, so it is good to understand that, because sometimes we kind of get very angry with ourselves about maybe we could have prevented something from happening, or maybe we should have done something, but no, maybe not. I mean, sometimes things are bigger than us, and maybe if we've not done it or whatever, things would have still not been the way we wanted it to be sometimes. So it's good to understand that actual results depend on so many factors, a lot of which are beyond our comprehension. And again, this doesn't mean that we don't have to do anything or we can't contribute to it, but it's just to recognize this. So laws and principles of nature, as we see them, they are just not mechanical laws, and they are just not, sometimes people will say, oh, they're just laws of nature. But they are laws presided by Ishvara. So everything is just the way it is. And it is important to understand that Ishvara is not partial, is not like, it hasn't got favorites, hasn't got preference for whatever, and think, oh yeah, well, you did that, but it doesn't matter because I like you. So it's not like that at all. So it's just everything is just presided by laws, and that's how it works. And then what I wanted you to think about as well is that the role of Ishvara as the giver of our fruits, of the fruits of our action. So nothing just happens. So another point that I wanted to talk about is around, so how can we make green apples less sharp? Okay, so I don't think we, last time we talked about this unrealistic expectations that sometimes we have about my life should have no problems. So this is not possible, okay? So my life, there shouldn't be a point in my life where I'm not sad, where I'm not experiencing something unpleasant. That doesn't happen. If people are telling you this is what their life is about, they're not telling you the whole story. And it's fine, you know, it's no problem. But that's the nature of life. Everyone goes through ups and downs. Everyone experiences something unpleasant. But then what can we do to make these green apples less sharp? So the apples that we've already got for this lifetime that we can't do anything about. So how can we make them less sharp? So there are a few things here, and one of them is to have our own shock absorbers. Okay, so each car has a shock absorber. So in the same way, we have to come with our shock absorbers. So we have to have the emotional intelligence to deal with problems, to know how to cope with things that happen in our lives. And that emotional strength comes by leading a life of Dharma, by doing the right thing, by feeding your mind the right thing. And you know, so a lot of this is are things that, you know, that how you can build this emotional intelligence to kind of not make them go away, but then deal with them in a way that makes you stronger and not make you collapse completely. Okay, so that's one way that we can make these green apples slightly less sharp. And then there is, so the Vedas, one part of the Vedas has all sorts of rituals that you can do to kind of overcome or to make these things a little bit less, a little bit easier in life, to make life a little bit easier. So this as well is, I mean, I'm not going to go into this part of the Vedas, but there are all sorts of rituals and things that are there in the Vedas that kind of help to and also you might have heard that people say, oh well, you know, do certain prayers on certain days, do certain things, and you know, whatever, it will just help a little bit. So yeah, I mean, there is these are things that can be done. I mean, we don't necessarily know how it happens, but it is in the Vedas, and that's definitely true. But then a lot of things that we need to be aware of is that a lot of these rituals are not done properly very often in modern life. So, and you know, so we as a society, or you know, we're very used to shortcuts. We are very used to kind of convenience, and we like, oh yeah, I can't be bothered with this, so I'll just do this bit, I'll just do that. So when we pick and choose, and when we kind of try and interfere with that kind of thing, the results are going to be different to what they are intended, just because we haven't followed the methods completely. I mean, I'm not saying you should or you shouldn't or whatever, but I'm just explaining that, you know, some people will say, oh, surely it's not true because we've done this and it didn't happen. But then did you do it the way it was intended? Or, you know, was everything followed to the letter? And perhaps not. So yeah, so just to think about, you know, green apples in our lives, we shouldn't feel very helpless about them either. We should feel that we can deal with them. They're here and we'll deal with them, and it makes us stronger. And also there are, you know, we can pray for ourselves. We can pray. We can just find the solace somewhere to help us go through this. So now, where is free will in all this? So, so we've looked a little bit at that already. So this might be familiar to you. We've looked at this before. So in spite of very strong currents, strong karmic currents flowing all the way around, there is always choices about how we react and what we do about things. Okay, so we can, well, first of all, is we can sort of be patient about things. We can wait for the currents to calm down and then cross the river, or we can kind of choose a different destination. Instead of going through there, we can go somewhere else. Instead of wanting to cross that river, we can just go along it for a bit or for a lot longer and then cross when the karmic currents are less strong. So here flexibility is required, and so we have to revise, we have to understand what's going on, but assuming that we are helpless is quite a big mistake. I mean, it's not true at all. So whatever we do now, however we react, so if we see somebody now, how we react to them is our free will. So if we want to injure that person, we can, or if we want to be kind, we can be kind. And so we've got all these choices in life. I mean, there are a lot of choices that we don't have, but there are a lot of choices that we have, and there is enough of choices that we have to make the world a better place for ourselves and for others. And it is how we choose to use that free will. Okay, so another way of explaining this free will thing is to look at, this is a bow and arrow, and then there is a bag of quivers. Okay, so the bag of quivers, if you like, are all our accumulated karma over time. And then whatever, once you've shot an arrow, that is in motion already, and that is what is happening to us in this life. So this is the bit, the Sanskrit word is prarabdha. So this is what is actually happening to us. So to that, some of it we don't have very much choice about. Some of the things that have been the fruits of previous action. But then when all these things are happening to us, what we do, like in this example, the arrow that you're about to shoot is your free will. Okay, so you have got that choice, what you do with that arrow, how you shoot it, whether you shoot it at all, or what angle will you be aiming, and all this kind of thing. So this is all the free will that we have. So when an arrow is already set into motion, we have zero free will already. We can't stop it. We could try, but maybe there's nothing we can do, or very little that we can do if it's already there. But then what the arrows that about to be released is the free will. Okay, so that's just to recap. So the bag of arrows is the accumulated karma. The arrow that's already in the air is what is happening to us now, and then what we do, the arrow in our hand now, is what will determine what happens to us in the future, in this life and in future lives as well. So now what I wanted to do is I wanted to look at, sorry. So what I wanted to look at a little bit was to look at what about this arrow that we are about to release. What influences the arrow we're about to release, and what is it that actually help us to release an arrow, or what is it that we can do? So I'm just going to pause the recording briefly so we can have a little bit of a chat about this, and then resume. Okay, so thank you for the discussion. That was really interesting to sort of, so what we kind of discuss a little bit is the fact that what influences us and how we do the arrow is what we're exposed to, what we entertain in our mind, and what we listen to, what we see, what we let ourselves be influenced by. And so therefore, it is just something to think about that we might pick up again in the interactive session, but I just wanted to kind of start to get you thinking about this a little bit. So just to wrap up, what I wanted to talk about is, again, the relevance of the doctrine of karma to us. Okay, so karma, understanding this karma theory helps us to cope better when tragedy strikes, or we then understand why these things are happening. And it helps us to then gracefully accept situations which are beyond our control. So once we kind of imbibe these teaching and accept them, then it almost becomes the opposite, and you're grateful for these experiences. So these are experiences that I needed to undergo. Thanks for giving them to me now, when I can withhold them and I can do something about them. And then obviously once this is past, then I've done whatever I needed to do, and thanks for the opportunity almost. So this takes a lot of maturity, and but that's what it really is. And it can be a very helpful guide for our actions. So, what are we doing? And as a result, what are the reactions that we can expect for some of them? And also to kind of think in terms of whether our actions are these white or they're black and white, and how do we kind of make sure that, and in a way, our goal in life is to not create to do actions that result in green apples. And even too many red apples is not good, but that's a chat for another day. And then it also helps us to take responsibility for our actions. So the blaming game is pointless. So, if we say we're doing this because of this external thing, but it can be a factor. I'm not saying no, but then we have to take responsibility for the things that's happening to us and for the decisions that we make. And sometimes it takes a lot of courage to go over that, to stop blaming this blaming game and to accept responsibility ourselves. It's not, some people find it very difficult to do that, and it's easier to blame others than actually step up and take responsibility for so it's just good to understand that. It is good to understand the role of the creator is to sustain us. So so not to think about, it's not like any conspiracy theory, oh, God likes me, God doesn't like me, or it's not like that. We're all equally being protected, and also to gracefully accept this protection in our lives. And so sometimes when we think, oh, we've got to get everything done, we've got to do this, we've got to, and then think, well, okay, yes, maybe we have to, but then, I'm supported in this role, and the forces of the universe are with me, and that kind of thing, which really does take a big shoulder off, a big weight off our shoulder. And so it's nice to understand that and feel that in our lives. And everything that happens by the grace of Ishvara, so there is no denying it. So the whole laws of everything that happens, the law of gravity, everything in this world is the grace of Ishvara. And also to put this this knowledge into our perspective, and how great Ishvara is, and therefore that can help us to embrace humility as a character about our role here, and also to accept that everything is just as it should be in the world. There is bad things, there are good things, and that's part of what the universe offers, and that's it. That's what it is. And even if for those of you who have been reading some of the I wouldn't say the stories within the Hindu culture, like you will find that there are demons and there are gods, and and all this is part of Ishvara, and this is all part of this world. So and we have to embrace it and just understand that everything is just as it should be in the universe. Everything has a purpose. Everything is here because that's what Ishvara wanted it to be, and that's how it is. And and we might think, well, okay, some things are so horrible in this world that really surely they don't have a place in this world. But then, yeah, they are regrettable. It's really sad, and we should do something about them. We shouldn't be passive. We should help. But then it is there because there is a reason for it. We don't know that reason, but we can't dismiss that, the fact that it shouldn't be there or it should be there. It is there, and that's the way it is, and that's the law of the universe. So it's just really accepting things as part of life that we cannot change. And so this is also resonated in different cultures, in different prayers and things, and give me the strength to accept things that I can't change and change what I can change. So so this is very important. So what I've explained here is that, there's, because we are accepting the law of karma, doesn't mean we don't have any free will, doesn't mean we just have to let things happen, and it's not like that at all. So we are the designers of our destiny, and we do that. So that's all I wanted to talk about today, and we will finish here. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Harihi Om.